Okay, so this is I'm here with Anna Waters. She's from a dim and distant land, or actually a bright and distant land, distant anyway. She's from Australia. Anna, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, okay. Well, hello. I am from a town called Geelong in Victoria, Australia. Um, Grown up here my whole life. I am 28 years old. I'm married, have been married for about 5 years. I work as a music therapist during the week, and I am creating my own music at the moment.
That's always exciting. So with your, you obviously grew up, is that a small town, a big town? I mean, I don't know towns in Australia very well, so.
It's it's one of the largest towns in our state. Yeah, pretty big.
Okay. And what about your kind of church background? Did you go to church as a kid, or is it something that's kind of like been a bit newer for you?
I've grown up in the church. I come from both my parents, and they've got a long line of strong Christians. My grandfather is a reverend. And yeah, I grew up in the church that I'm currently in. I have grown up in my whole life. So I love it. Yeah, that's the one. I've been here the whole time. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that when you grew up in a church, I grew up in church as well. Not literally, I didn't live there all the time, but it feels like it sometimes. But I grew up in a church, and sometimes it takes a while for the message to kind of like really penetrate and become real for you. How did that happen for you? Is it kind of like, did you become a Christian at 6 years old, or was it something that kind of like took a while to kind of germinate?
Yeah, sure.
Good word.
Germinate. Yeah. I always knew, I always knew of God and knew of God's love and that sort of thing. Like my parents really were great like that, just all the foundational stuff. But I made, a commitment I think I was about 9, and then I got baptized when I was 11. So, God has been very real to me my whole life, really. But, I've gone through seasons, that sort of thing, but I've always, God's always been there.
Yeah, sounds quite similar to myself. I was the same. Got baptized when I was 12, I think, because my parents wouldn't let me get baptized any earlier.
Yeah,
Because you had to know. They
it.
wanted me to know that it was definitely something that I wanted to do, rather than just because I was trying to please them, and actually to know what I was doing. I guess is that something the same for yourself?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, looking at the bio information that I had sent through to you, from you even, it sounds like you were kind of like very directly called to music and to ministry. I think it was a concert when you were 16. Tell me a little bit about what happened.
Yeah. Well, I grew up playing the flute, and my parents always said, if you're going to get lessons in this, like, we would really love to see you using that to serve God in the church. And so I've been on the worship team at my church since I was, I think, about 11. But I didn't start singing. I always loved singing. Didn't start singing on the worship team until I was about 16, maybe. And that's kind of when God started really showing me that maybe, there was a bit more to singing for me than what I had thought. And so anyway, long story short, I was on the worship team for a conference that we had, like a youth kind of rally conference sort of thing. And yeah, this one night the preacher had a really like a word for me and was like, I really see that God's going to use you and you're singing and it's going to bring healing and, you know, keeps going after God especially in this area because, you know, I think you're really called to this. And so after that, I was like, oh, wow. It's not just me thinking, you know, this is something I really like to do, but it's like I actually am starting to feel like there's a calling.
Okay, so I think on your website, as opposed to the bio, it says you didn't really take music seriously till you were about 18.
Yeah.
So there was obviously like that period of a couple of years where obviously something convinced you that it was the way to go to study music in uni and things like that. How did that actually manifest? How did that kind of come about?
Yeah.
Was there lots of kind of the revelations from God, or was it just like a slow progression, you know, through things?
I would probably say it's been
through life.
progression. Like, you know, there can be quite a big difference between the age of 16 and the age of 18. At 16, you know, not really thinking about the future that much. But by 18, I knew that I wanted to do something to do with music professionally. Like I did after school, the only thing I really wanted to do was go to music college, music school. But I had actually thought that was going to be on flute and that I was going to go down an orchestral performance sort of, you know, road.
You wanted to call yourself classically trained, did you?
Yeah, very much classically trained. Yes. But then in year 12, so my last year of school, I kind of started to think, well, maybe there's something, you know, I'm starting to sing more at school, also at church. I'm really enjoying it. I feel like God's gifted me with something and I want to see where this goes. And so then I ended up auditioning on both flute and voice and was lucky enough to get in on both. But I literally 15 minutes before I had to select which course I wanted to go in, I decided, okay, it's going to be voice. I hope this is what God wants. And yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah, it's hard to sing and play the flute at the same time, to be fair.
Exactly.
So now you're leading worship at your home church and you've done conferences and things like that. How did you transition from kind of like small church or your own church into kind of like the other projects that you're doing, releasing your own music, working with Sons of Korah, things like that? How did that all come about?
Yeah, well, I mean, so many opportunities come out of. I'm part of a large church, I guess you could say, and people see you on team and ask you to do, you know, different things, and that's been great. Like, I'm so blessed I'm able to go and serve in all of these different areas. And for Sons of Korah, I'm actually at church with a couple of them. Like more than half the band we're all at the same church. So I've grown up with these guys, and you know, they saw me singing on the worship team. I knew them, and when I had finished uni, I was wanting to do a bit more with music, and they invited me to join the band. So that's how, you know, the origin of my role in Sons of Korah started. But other stuff has just kind of come through. I guess, you know, the conference that I talked about when I was 16, I continued doing that. Or the youth rally, I don't know what you'd call it over there, but yeah, like the youth nights, that sort of thing. Started doing a bit more of that sort of stuff, and God just opened doors, really.